Good evening, everyone. So the topic is data integrity for us. We'll try to basically finish this session in time. I think we have 25 minutes. So we have seen all these in 2 days that AI, ML, analytics, right? So these are basically the last leg. But in any data and information management solution we do, right? One of the key challenges is to basically ensure the data is fit for purpose and it is absolutely right for dissemination. Now, data integrity basically is an enabler which ensures that my data is fit for purpose for all, last mile reporting, be it any feeding into AI or ML for any scorecard generation or a plethora of things. So our theme of discussion is around this topic of data integration. So my first question to you, Nikhil, that in your experience, because of course there are various fancy names to it, we call it big data lake or data warehouse or any information management. These are all the same thing. So in your experience, how exactly you have ensured that the right data integrity principles are applied at the right level of data acquisition to ensure the data is fit for purpose across all this life cycle? So if you can share some of the experience to the audience.
Right. See, what is happening in the current scenario is most of the data that we are accumulating, the data is getting collected by the consumer. So the team which is consuming the data, they are involved in collecting the data. So in the course, and they are also in a very discovery mode, like they also don't know which data is going to give them correct insight. And in that process, they collect, many data which would be irrelevant at at point of time. And that also becomes a burden on the system. So the challenge which we have come across is how we can do dimension reduction, and we can have a very focused, curated data, and that is the way forward. If you are going to use AI ML with the right set of data, I think that is a way forward. Now, in my experience, what we have observed is so currently what is happening is most of if you are going in a way of making a data-based decisioning, where these models are going to play an important role, the data has to be very accurate. Accuracy is very important. And to enable that accuracy, there has to be a system in place. So data governance is very important. And data lineage is also very important. So, you should be able to, as the model matures, you should be able to see what all data point can be discarded over a period of time. Because, models are getting more mature as the situation and things evolve, right? Another situation I have come across, first the model, in case of model testing, the issue had come. I will not specify because of, but when you do model testing, we come across many data points where, the ownership is challenged, like we were not knowing who is owning that data. The data stewardness was missing. So that we try to plug in, and I think we have been able to achieve, because now we are a more mature bank, and for a new bank, the grounds up data platform and identifying which data has to be used in what shape and format, that also becomes very clear, and that's a comfort which and old and large organization doesn't have that luxury.
That's really great, Nikhil. I think these are the basically ways and means to ensure the data is fit for purpose. Absolutely agree. So Vivek, your views, if you could share actually on this. Same thing, like any specific points you want to add into it.
So see, in a bank like organizations where you have seen that all the departments work as a different kind of organization. So there is no coordination between them, and data, the basic problem and most critical problem which we face in a bank is data resides in silos. Now, collecting data from all these silos and having it in one place, because if you want to have a customer 360, then you have to collect the data from all the sources and from all the departments. where few data we already coming directly from the applications. That is quite easy to integrate, but most of the time it not happens. So that is the biggest challenge normally we face. But once the data is come into the data, either your data warehouse or a cloud, we start building our model part. Either it's for a customer experience or customer acquisition, or run some upsell cross-sell models from selling point of view. For that, we need to see that which platform is better for us. We have to identify that what would be the perfect platform for that. And it's not easy for us to have that, to integrate these new technology-based solutions with latest technology, because these are all our legacy systems. And once the legacy system is there, it's challenging for us to have a integrated the new platforms. And over and above, we have a regulatory body, RBI is there. So it's not easy for us to have all the analytical data into the cloud, because sometimes few key applications or core applications still resides on a on-prem, and applications which we required for analytics that goes on the cloud. And so that's a clear bifurcation. What we have to, mission critical applications should not go on the cloud. So based on that, we have a number of restrictions, and above all, then we have to have a regulation and compliance and audit. So keeping all in mind, it's not an easy job for us. And most of the time, we are not focused more on the basic part. Base part is a data engineering part, where you need to have a data cube at a place to do a proper analytics or apply a proper AI ML algorithms over and above that.
Sure. So, Prashant, from your perspective, because data governance is also one of the important factor. Of course, data governance has a various meaning in various contexts. But from a data and information management perspective, because data governance is also one of the key ingredients to ensure that all my last mile reporting, all my regulatory reporting, all my data systems are absolutely intact. So if you could share your experience in terms of designing a right data governance framework, which can basically help to achieve this ultimate outcome of data integrity principles. If you could share something.
Thanks. Good evening, everyone. So what I think is that very simple, like what we follow in ISO standard, specifically a business impact analysis. So what we should do effectively is that anyway, those three pillars are there always, CIA, and we are talking about the I pillar over here. So effectively, if you compromise, you lose, or if you have any certain issues in the data integrity or something, we need to understand first where it is going to impact. Okay, so what I feel is that we should do kind of impact analysis, and that impact analysis parameter has to be defined. So if you ask me what can be those parameters, are like, first can be a major customer loss. If your data integrity gets impacted, whether there's any chances of customer loss, is there any going to be a regulatory issues if it impact the integrity or something? Is there going to be any brand impact? Your brand reputation is going to have impact anything. Secondly, is there going to be any financial loss if integrity has been challenged? And the last but not the least is that, are there going to be any administrative efforts which you'll have to take to bring it back to the original state? So what we need to do is that first we need to understand the impact analysis. The moment we understand the impact analysis, then it becomes easy to put the controls and governance on the same. And under governance framework, I would like to say that definitely regulatory is playing a very big role, and even the DPDP Act is on the verge of implementation. So I feel that the first and most important is the user access control. What I feel is that when you deal with too much of data, because normally it is a thought process that if you want to improve your risk posture, it's always better to capture minimum data, minimize your attack surface so that you'll have to build less controls. But at the same time, we have business requirement where we want to do cross-selling and upscaling, and we would like to know everything and each thing about the customer, his family and everything. So we need to ensure that we need to protect it. So access control, again, simple, need to know basis and need to do basis is something where we need to provide the access to the users so that it gets handled properly. Chances of misuse are less, and you can put the controls only where the access has been given. That is the first part. Second part we should always see is that on the regulatory part, when the DPDP comes, so how we are going to get the data from the customer, how much data we are going to get from the customer, and when it comes to the consent, we need to address the point how we are going to get the data, how we are going to manage the data, how we are going to review the data, and the most critical part where most of the challenge is going to come is that how we are going to withdraw the data. Tomorrow, if customer asks that, okay, my relationship with your organization is done, we are done now, so please remove the data. Whether we have sufficient controls first to discover where is the data gone. Okay, and when it comes to withdraw data, the third control for the governance comes, which is very critical because we are dealing with a lot of third parties nowadays, and most of our data for multiple purpose, processing purpose, upselling purpose, cross-selling purpose, or any other activity purpose, we are giving it to the third party. How we are going to deal with those third party who are going to use our data, how we are going to control the data which has gone out of our company, out of the organization parameter, how we are going to control the data. So these are the three places where we need to be very specific how we are going to control the data and how we are going to withdraw the data from the third party. Withdrawing data within our premise itself is going to be a challenge. When it goes to third party, it's going to be another major challenge. Who is going to certify that the third party has really withdrawn your data, removed it totally? So those are the things governance, I think we should be very careful when you are dealing with such a huge data.
Absolutely, fair point. So, Nikhil, so the next leg of questions. So, so typically in banks we have, since it's a regulated entity, and we have so many systems we have, right? For example, core banking system, loans different system, CRM different system, your complaints are in different system. Now it is important to ensure that I am capturing the consistent data, because that's the whole principle of data integrity. Duplicacy is removed, because ultimately this data needs to fit into the AI and ML and other downstream models for various other purposes. So the question is basically, in your experience, probably what exactly the right solution to ensure, because of course in the market we have like a lot of selling also, like MDM you have, but at the same time the data and information maturity varies from banks to bank, right? So from your experience, because the problem with the big banks are not with the problem with the small banks, because the legacy part is not there. So in your experience, like how do we ensure, what are the basically some of the best practices to share with the audience here, to ensure that we have a right kind of a solution, to ensure that all these disconnected things are connected and optimized for the last mile reporting and analytics, if you can share.
So coming back to, so the crux of everything is that we need to have a very robust data governance policy in place. So as part of governance policy, we need to have clearly defined data stewardship. So the ownership of data has to be there, to be defined upfront, both at the place where the data is getting originated, as well as it is duly getting validated by the data user. So the entire lineage has to be properly captured in a proper trail. So that is a very important part, because data are residing into applications. So the duplicacy also needs to be addressed in terms of having a right dedupe system and proper identifier for the data. So what is the identifier you use? For example, if you are using multiple system, the onboarding is happening in multiple places. But are we ensuring that you have unique TIF ID across the system? So be it LMS, be it core banking system, or the CRM system, where you are maintaining all the customer success. That is very important. And so as part of when we are creating those data mart, so that time itself we identify who is going to own the data. For example, if you are talking about the customer data, the customer 360 degree, it has to be owned by one team, and that team is going to take the ownership end to end. And as part of governance, we also ensure that as the access also has to be given to that team. So it's not that anybody can do any changes in that data. So that is also ensured in true spirit, and we that is implemented.
So you are reflecting the change data capture part of it. So absolutely, that's important. Yeah. So Vivek, in the next level of questions is on the AI and ML. So now AI and ML has very different use cases, mostly from the business purposes. Now the question here is a bit different. So in your opinion, can we use AI and ML to basically detect some kind of this data integrity related anomalies, and from a fixing perspective, so that it is absolutely fixed at the start before disseminating it further and multiplying or having the cascading effect? So your view, can we have some kind of an AI and ML algorithms, basically an algorithmic based approach to fix this data, consistency related problems is the question.
I can rephrase you about asking that AI about to improve data quality.
Exactly. AI to improve data quality. Exactly. More than quality, consistency and accuracy.
Yeah, so it's like that. Of course, whenever we build any AI or ML or data science algorithm, so we make sure that the data quality should be 100% there, because if you have a data quality is 100% and accuracy will be there, then only your algorithm performs up to the mark. But yeah, we can have some quality checks there, which we can build some rules there initially. It's not any AI is basically learn from your previous algorithms and previous outputs, ideally. So what we do, that we initially create one checklist, which are the parameters for us to check our data quality and accuracy. And these data quality index is also a mandatory from RBI as well, which we have to share with the RBI on a monthly basis, and based that they give us the ranking. So of course, those are from a banking and managing that kind of profile, they know how critical it is. And for banking industry, as for the RBI, we have to maintain it at 99.9. That's the accuracy benchmark for us for a data quality indexing. We of course build some AI algorithm around that, where we can see that this data is not belong to that data set, or some abnormalities are coming around that. Suppose we have some range of a data, and if anything goes beyond that range, that automatically reflect by the AI algorithms that not belongs to this group, or something wrong with that data. If anything is blank or anything not coming in a proper format, that can be managed by the rules as well. But of course, longer runs, it's better to have an AI, so it can detect automatically that anything is, if not coming in that particular area, then columns that can be reflected at the same real-time basis, and someone from that team can that output is sent to the related team, because most of the time we have collect data from the operations and some other teams also. So it can goes back to them and they can immediately do the correction part. So yes, there are the things which we are doing for AI for data quality. Not from more is the point from the rule, where we have based on some rule engines, and that are trying to improve our data quality. AI is up to very little part, but slowly once the volume will be there and we have more gaps and permutation combinations, we find out that which gaps can be managed through the AI, and it can automatically goes back to that source system and fetch that data. That can be new revolution, but still I don't think anyone goes up to that level that they can find out where exactly is the gap, where the data is not coming, or as per the validation. Because so far, as a data engineer, what we do the data validation part, we put some validation at the source point, or if not possible at a source systems, we try to manage it into a data warehouse part. That is the max we can do from a data engineering part. But if it's good if we can able to apply some AI and it help us to manage, and that can take 80 or 90% of load from data engineering team. So that would be really very helpful for us.
Can I add something here?
Sure.
So as part of model creation, what we do is we take up a step called exploratory data analysis, and there we look for consistency of the data. We also look for any biasness in the data, any extreme value that we feel, and maybe there's a null value. So that completeness of the data. And if you are for example, if you are looking at transaction data, the timeline is also important. So those kind of checks we do before it goes to.
But in a data science, it's already come up from a data engineering class. So normally we have a data engineering layer initially, and above that we do build our predictive models or a data science model. So of course, data scientists getting a data which is already massaged and clean to build their models. So at data science part, you don't need to take care of a data quality. That is coming already from your data engineering team. So data engineering is a team where they need some help to improve their data quality.
Absolutely. I think it would make sense if AI and ML can contribute in terms of reflecting the data score, data trust score, basically, right at the data engineering itself. And they are reporting the data trust score that, in a scale of 10, this is the scale. So that the last level person who is using the data, they know the trust and the confidence.
We have a practice of data quality scorecard,
Exactly,
which can give you the immediate real-time where all gaps are happening and where we need to have to again put some attention.
Absolutely. So Prashant, the next question for you is like in the rapidly changing governance world, like of course DPDP is the act now. So, and there are a lot of mis-selling also happening now, in terms of creating like, I wouldn't say fear, but basically a peer pressure kind of a selling where consent management and all these things are getting sold. So in your opinion, because of course a practitioner also, so from a practitioner's standpoint, what exactly your guiding principles would be for evaluating a right consent management framework, and what exactly the do's and don'ts are, if you can share?
Okay, so I think from the DPDP point of view, definitely consent management is going to be very critical, because at the same time, the way people are, selling the solutions in the market, specifically for consent management, okay, most of the time they are, addressing getting the consent and communicating the consent, okay, but the actual main part of the consent management starts post you getting the consent. How you are going to manage that consent, how you are going to review that consent regularly, as I was mentioning, managing, reviewing that consent, and then withdraw. So when the withdrawal will come, how are you going to address those consents? So though they looks like four, just statements, but each statement is going to be a major impact on most of the organization, where they'll have to build multiple control to protect those things and to manage those things. So I think consent management, I can say it's an abused word as on today. People left and right are selling the consent management solution, but we need to think that practically from the point of view where how we are going to manage each of those pillars of those consent management.
You think that
yeah, and that's part of DPDP, because
exactly.
we'll end up in paying huge penalties.
Exactly.
Otherwise.
So do you think that then effective controls can be built and measured around this entire consent management thing, or is just a hypothetical right now?
As of now, we could not came out with any of the solutions which protects all those things. But yes, as an organization, we ourselves need to put our kind of a wish list in front of those service providers, saying that I just want end-to-end management solution. It's not just like I just manage the front part and then the actual process is not going to help me, because end of the day, it's our organization reputation is going to have impact. The penalty is going to be 250 crores, which is huge. Okay, so we need to take a call on those things.
So we have 1 minute left. So any questions from the audience? Happy to take. I hope everyone is awake. Okay, sure. Okay, so I think we can wrap up. So of course, thank you very much for sharing your views.